Okay, now I'd like to welcome to the podium one of the Community Folk Arts Center, or the Gallery's founders, Dr. Mary Schmidt-Campbell, who I already explained was the chair of the New York State Council on the Arts, as well as the dean of the schools. Dr. Campbell.
Thank you. I'm going to stand in front of the music hall. It has been really over the past 35 years how impressive its programs have become and how really important and vital it's become to the whole Syracuse community. I always cringe, I have to say, however, when somebody refers to me as a co-founder, because the truth of the matter is that it was Herb Williams who was the heart, the soul, the leader of the Folk Art Gallery. 35 years ago, I was a graduate student, had a lot more hair, and had a whole lot more attitude. And Herb had eternal patience. He had incredible patience for all of us. There were a group of us, black graduate students, who came in and, under the guise of trying to learn from him, actually harassed him as well, so he had to put up with us. But in the course of it, I learned how to hang a show, to do labels, to write a catalog, to curate. That is where my career as a curator and museum director began. And that's, in those days, there could not have been any other beginning for me. And I think it's a mark of a leader to look around at the kind of people that you mentored. Megan White, who works with me now at the State Council on the Arts, Dr. Kelly Willits, many, many people who came through Herb and under Herb's tutelage. I have to say one thing, though. One of the happiest days of Herb's life was when he met Shelley. And I had the great pleasure to be around when he met her, and when he married her, and when he had his wonderful children. So I really want to acknowledge Shelley, who was the center of Herb's life, because she was an very important part. So, congratulations to you, Dr. Lewis. You and your staff have done an incredible job, and I'm really honored to have been a small part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, her small part was modest. As a member of the faculty of the African American Studies Department, and I'm sure Herb would agree, we are strong proponents of collective work and collective responsibility. So we will always acknowledge all of you, although I completely agree that, you know, Herb really was the heart and soul of the Community Folk Arts Center, or the Gallery, and really kind of shared that inspiration and excitement with all of the students, graduate students, and Syracuse City residents. Now I would like to introduce the former assistant director of the Community Folk Arts Center, Megan White, who also for me is like my big sister. She oftentimes, I would like to say, was the mediator for those challenging and complicated conversations with Herb, and she's the only person I know that could translate whatever he was thinking, whatever he was feeling, and even just an expression. It's a rare gift that she had, and I'm glad to welcome her to share a few thoughts about her relationship with the Gallery.
We work in the dark. We do what we can. We give what we have. Our doubt is our passion, and our passion is our task. The rest is the madness of art. I'm Megan White. I worked at the Community Folk Arts Center, Folk Art Gallery, or the Gallery, from about 88 to 96 as the assistant director. I first became acquainted with the Gallery and Herb Williams in his class, Art of the Black World. I was asked to share a few recollections and say a few words about the Gallery and Herb. It's not a simple task to bear witness to the totality of the Gallery, what it was, what it did in Syracuse and beyond. In the brochure, I said, my connection with the Gallery nurtured me as a university student, informed me as an artist, educated me as an administrator, and later as a resident and part of the Syracuse African American community. And that much is very true. I have many fond memories of working at the Gallery, and some not so fond memories. I believe I eulogized Herb years ago by mentioning how one of the first things I told him when I walked in as an employee was, I'm not going to teach any children's workshops. So, of course, you know, that's where I spent most of my time initially. I did get him back for that. But I've since learned that many times over that sometimes the resistance that we feel is the knowledge that something great is to come. Sometimes we tremble not in fear but in anticipation of a brighter realization. I taught so many children's workshops on so many different topics, and most of them were just about as bad as I thought they were going to be. Some of them were worse, but there were many that I found inspirational and led to ideas that I was able to explore further through ongoing adults workshops that covered surface design, fibers, and studio visits and field trips to broaden the scope of the participating community artists. Eventually, I went on to mount exhibitions and learn about research and cataloging, and for a few years led sessions of the class Art of the Black World and Images of Blacks in Film. It was through these classes that I became deeply acquainted with Birth of a Nation, Oscar Michaud, timeless films like Five on the Black Hand Side and Black Orpheus. In the art history class, I became deeper acquainted and shared information about artists like Edward Bannister, Henry Osawa Tanner, Augusta Savage, and Herb's favorite, Edmonia Lewis.
That was a love affair.
The gallery has always been multidisciplinary in scope, and so my programming also extended into film. We screened African classic filmmakers like Suleiman Sissé and Ousmane Sembene. I got to meet face-to-face talented people like St. Clair Bourne, rest in peace, Spike Lee, breakthrough pioneers like Jesse Maple and Woody King. I recall one time putting together a film series, and we featured a short film that was based on a toned poem. One of our community friends and university administrator called after the last screening. I was exhausted and said, could we please screen it one more time so she could bring her class to see the film? Because you see, her daughter made the film. And her daughter wasn't a filmmaker, she was a writer, but she made this film, which wasn't that great, but could we please screen it again so her daughter could come and see, so they could come and see her daughter's work? Sure, no problem. We screened the film, the class came, she was happy. Eventually, sometime later, I got to go home. Those were the kind of things that we did at the gallery. Now, who was the administrator? It was none other than the beautiful and gracious Frances Parks. And the film that we screened was by her then unknown daughter, the Pulitzer Prize-winning Susan Laurie Parks. Who knew? Okay, a lot of people drop names, but what I'm trying to say is that the gallery was where you could meet those names and learn from them in a community setting, face-to-face. Incredible controversial artists like Renee Cox, whose 12-foot nude African Jesus hung from a mahogany crucifix in the middle of the gallery for so long that there were some children who thought it was protocol to pull your hood over your head and run straight into the ceramics room so that you wouldn't see any offending larger-than-life-size body parts. Other works exhibited included those of masters like Romare Bearden, Elton Fax, Benny Andrews, Vincent Smith, Emma Amos, Aaron Douglas, Valerie Maynard, and of course there were always the local gems like David McDonald, Robert Harris, Denise Cole, Ellen Blaylock, and Jack White, just to name a very few. Angela Davis visited the gallery while the work of some of these artists was being exhibited and was impressed with the range of talent and expertise of local artists of color. Senator Nancy Lee Rain Hoffman was a regular at gallery openings. Remember Shelley? A 2-week visit from an Australian Aboriginal family of artists who later became my adopted relatives. Syracuse University alumni cartoonist Robin Troy Armstrong, the creator of Jumpstart. Barbara Brandon, creator of Where I'm Coming From. Fashion shows, numerous lectures, genre crossings programs like Black Women and the Politics of Hair, which featured film, poetry, and paintings on the theme. It was exhausting. It was exhilarating. The concept of arts for all, the idea of a place-based space where community folk can celebrate the work of artists of color, and all artists in whatever form and different stages of development, was more than a grand experiment, but a practicing daily reality that today continues to inspire, educate, and inform. And that's the legacy of Herb Williams and the Community Folk Art Gallery. Khalil Gibran said, "The light of stars that were extinguished ages ago still reaches us. So it is with men who have died, but still reach us with radiations of their ideas, achievements, and personalities." Thank you.
you.